Hey, what's up, YouTube? Okay, here's an update on the Korea situation. If you guys hadn't heard, shortly after North Korea had came out and said that they were going to retaliate, and they started making all these serious threats if South Korea went ahead with the drill this weekend. South Korea came out and said that they were going to wait and still continue with the drill regardless of what North Korea was saying, but they were waiting for better weather. So they basically said it was going to push back the drill a day or two, basically putting the drill either Monday or Tuesday, rather than over the weekend. Russia today declared a emergency UN meeting to get everybody at the table to sort of diffuse the situation. And what I'm going to show you guys here is a clip from CNN where they're talking with the governor of New Mexico. One sec. Excuse me. What's his name here? Bill Richardson. And it's a pretty in-depth clip with him discussing the situation, so it's worth a watch. Now, personally, I think that this is most likely malarkey. I think they're going through the motions so they can have that as an excuse to say, hey, look, we tried to get people to the table and we tried to diffuse this. And I think what you have to ask yourself as a bottom line question on this whole Korea situation is, what is the overall plan of the puppeteers? Is it in their interest to have this thing go off? Do they want it to go off? Or is this something that's sort of unforeseen and they want to diffuse it and they want to stop it? And again, personally, my view is that they want this to happen. I think this is definitely part of their script and part of their agenda to further all their other plans, and I think this is why they have all the military assets over there and floating around. Now, the one thing is they might not want the timing right now. So from that point of view, maybe they are going to try and diffuse it a bit. But in general, my gut says this is just a going through the motions. So take a watch of the clip, and hopefully it brings everybody up to speed. Later, YouTube.
Some breaking news out of Pyongyang, North Korea. Of course, that is where New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson has been traveling on a private peace mission there, meeting with several high-powered officials in North Korea. Our Wolf Blitzer has been traveling with him. Wolf, I understand that the governor has just had an important meeting. What came out of that meeting?
A very important meeting with one of the top military generals of North Korea, Reggie, Major General Pak Rim-soo. He's in charge of the demilitarized zone for North Korea, in charge of the armistice that was signed back in 1953, ending the Korean War, arguably right now the most serious crisis going on in the Korean Peninsula. Richardson has just wrapped up about an hour-and-a-half meeting with the general. He's here with me now, and he's just told me that there are some significant developments, including the generals being open to two specific proposals that Richardson put up: a hotline, a military-to-military hotline that would be established between North and South Korea to try to ease this crisis, as well as a separate commission, military commission involving the United States, North Korea, and South Korea to try to ease this crisis as well. He's with me. Let me quickly debrief him on what happened inside. Governor, you told me it was very tense, very sobering, but productive. What exactly happened?
Well, as I said, it was a very tough meeting, but at the same time, I saw some progress, and I'm acting on my own. I'm not representing the U.S. government, but the general was receptive to the idea of a hotline between North and South military. This has been proposed before, and it's kind of died in the vines, but he seemed to be very open to that. Secondly, I proposed, well, why not have a military commission, United States, North Korea, South Korea, to monitor the disputed areas in the West Sea, to be there available for a crisis response that might be taking place. And perhaps most positively, since I had brought back the remains of 6 of our servicemen 4 years ago when I was here, he offered to resume the joint recovery efforts with the United States, where he believes that there are several hundred remains out there that have recently been recovered that he would be willing to provide back to the United States. That is very important to our servicemen, to the families. I've been directly involved in that. So it was a positive gesture. Again, nonetheless, it was a very tough meeting, sobering. I urge the general to listen to the United Nations Security Council when it meets on Sunday. Hopefully they will exercise restraint, and that will be an opportunity for North Korea to cool down, to tamp down, all sides to tamp down, because when the UN Security Council issues a resolution, it's the international community. So a productive meeting, but still, it's very tense out here.
I saw the photographs that they gave you, Governor, of these remains that were discovered, and there's also one photograph of a specific dog tag of a U.S. soldier who was killed during the Korean War. I know you're not going to release the name pending you want to notify the Department of Defense first so they can notify next of kin and all of that. But what I hear you saying is that this was a significant gesture on the part of North Korea trying to reach out and reestablish some sort of dialogue, if you will, with the U.S.?
That's right. And the United States, I believe, has rightly said that the whole series of negotiations that we've had with North Korea, if they are to resume the 6-party talks, North Korea needs to change their behavior. They have to stop shelling civilians. They have to stop shooting down ships from the South Koreans. They have to cool down this uranium buildup, abide by the 2005 declaration of denuclearization on the peninsula. And North Korea hasn't done that. So what is important is to get back to talks, but I believe that North Korea needs to change its behavior. In any event, the fact that they're just open, they didn't say that they would have a hotline. They're open to the idea of a hotline between North and South. They've talked about it before. This initiative of the military commissions, this was mine. And the U.S. government has not necessarily approved this, but I thought that if you get the 3 militaries together to monitor the disputed areas, each side appoints a certain number, that could cool things down, because there's so much different positions. Some say, the North Koreans say it's their territory, the South says it's theirs. We have to respect international boundaries of the armistice. South Korea is our ally. The United States is firmly, I think, ensconced in an alliance that I support and respect with South Korea. But what we don't want is a war. There are 27,000 American soldiers out here. There's tremendous turmoil in the peninsula. There could be thousands of deaths. And so it's important to just cool things down, and maybe we're moving in that direction. The best development is the UN Security Council taking action tomorrow, and China saying how precarious the situation is, Russia also saying that we need the Security Council meeting. So perhaps the international community is coalescing to diffuse this crisis.
And I know you've expressed hope that this will give the cover to the South Koreans to delay these live-fire exercises on this island where the North Koreans opened shelling just on November 23rd. All right, we're going to stay in close touch, Reggie, with Governor Richardson. He's continuing his stay here in North Korea. He's got a big dinner that he's going to be having with some top North Korean officials later tonight. He's scheduled to leave on Monday to go back to Beijing and then go back home to the United States. But there's still stuff going on here. And if the South Koreans, Reggie, go ahead and engage in this military exercise, let's say on Monday or Tuesday, it's certainly unclear, and he received no commitment from North Korea how they would respond if, in fact, this happened. So it's still an incredibly tense situation.
Right. So, Wolf, and certainly these developments are very interesting and important, but based on what you just said and based on what the governor has been able to talk to the military general about, it sounds as if North Korea has not officially changed its stance. If South Korea were to continue with these exercises early next week, if the weather clears up, North Korea, and just to be clear, has not changed its stance. They're still saying that they would fire back.
Based on what Governor Richardson told me, that's correct, that he did not get a clear answer from the North Koreans. But let me ask him specifically on that point, Reggie, and I'll follow up. Reggie wants to know, Governor Richardson, did you get a hard response, a firm answer from the North Korean military officers on what they would do if the South Korean military goes ahead in the coming days with these live fire exercises? Did they tell you what they would do?
Not directly. They said that there would be a response, but at the same time they hoped that the UN Security Council resolution would tamp down the situation. So they didn't answer directly, but it was clear that they were very upset about the potential exercises. They indicated that they were prepared to defend their country, but again, it wasn't a direct answer. That gives me some kind of hope.
All right, so there you have it. He just emerged from this meeting, and he's got more meetings, so we'll see what happens. But despite what seems to be some productivity, it's still an incredibly tense moment on the Korean Peninsula, Reggie.
Yes.
That's obvious to everyone who's watching it.
Yeah, it is interesting to hear. Sometimes, Wolf, as you know, it's what they don't say that makes all the difference. And in this case, we just heard what Bill Richardson said. They did not have a strong reaction to what may happen if South Korea were to continue with the exercises, and he said that gives some hope. So we'll see where that goes. Wolf Blitzer, we appreciate you reporting for us.